to be back. It's been a while. So before I jump into this case study, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Leslie Wood in the audience, Chief Research Officer over at Nielsen Catalina, with whom we constructed these studies. We used their data to create the targets that Larry had mentioned. We used their data to measure the performance of the campaign. And what I'm the most excited to talk to you about today is how we can use that data to make sure that future campaigns work even better. So in our case study, we've got three schedules, one for a household cleaning product and two different soda brands. And real quickly, here's how the methodology works. We're utilizing the Nielsen Catalina single source panel. Single source is very important here because within this one panel, we have full visibility into all of the linear television viewing habits of each of these households within the panel, as well as full exposure into what they are spending from a CPG perspective. We are using a control versus exposed methodology, but a key portion of that is our control and exposed households are matched based on over 500 different factors. And the key point that I want to make here is that we know for certain that for the 12 months prior to our campaign, our households in the control group and the exposed group had pretty much identical spending patterns on average. That way, when we look at the differences during and post-campaign, we are talking about true incremental lift. So the first question we want to answer with the data was the campaign successful? And absolutely. What we're looking at here are actual return on ad spend values, the household cleaner and the two soda brands, each coming in over $6.70 for household cleaner, $7.82 for soda number one, $8.15 for soda number two. And then what I want to mention, though, is the fact that it's great that we're showing these great ROAS scores, but what's key is the fact that they are significantly higher than what we typically would see for a demo-based campaign. That's that 357 over on the left. I also want to mention what's particularly important about that norm is that we are specifically looking at a norm that is based on campaigns that are roughly the same media investment. One of the things that we've learned through this process is that when making comparisons of ROAS, it's really crucial to make sure that you're comparing like to like in terms of media spend. So the second thing we want to do with the data is understand why it worked. Again, going back to the value of a single source panel is that we have the ability to now isolate those households that were within the target that was utilized versus those that were out. And then we can take a look at, all right, well, where was the actual incremental value? Where were all of the additional dollars coming from? And what we've seen pretty much every time we've done this type of analysis is that the lion's share of all of the impact is coming out of that target group. So for the household cleaning product, 38% of the households that were reached fell within the target, but they generated 71% of the overall incremental sales. And that's an index of response of 187. On the flip side, when you take a look at the out-of-target portion, so 62% of the impressions, but only 29% of the sales. Similar story for each of the two soda brands. I will point out, though, when you look at soda number two, even though we are seeing the in-target households outpunching their weight and really doing a great job of affecting incrementality, but still we are seeing that 51% of the incremental sales was coming from out of target. So to us, kind of what that tells us is, well, A, maybe we should think about revising the target, or B, this actually sets the case for here's why we should use both linear, traditional linear, broad-based linear, and targeting together to really optimize performance. And I mentioned the last question that we wanted to answer is, now that we know that it worked, how can we make it better? So what we're looking at here is what Nielsen's 13-cell grid, which I love saying that phrase. And what they do is we take all of our results and we break it down first by previous brand buyers versus new or elapsed. And then within those, within previous brand buyers, we're breaking that down into high, medium, low share. On new or lapsed, it's non-previous brand buyers versus those that are just new to the category. And then we're going to cut that all across by spending within the category. What's really important to note is that all of these building blocks are available to us to then go back and create a new target. So the red boxes that you're seeing here are the segments that were targeted in this particular example. And again, when we look at the index of response, we see the ones on the left actually did very, very well. But on the one on the right, which is part of the focus here was they were trying to capture non-brand buyers, well, we found that that didn't work. So one of the insights that we could take back to our client was, well, unless you're planning on radically changing your creative, going after non-brand buyers is just not going to work. But what we did find is that this low share segment actually responded very favorably. So our suggestions for the next campaign would be, let's focus on these cells that we know are actually performing and not focus on the part that it isn't performing. So to wrap it up, maybe, all right. We know that linear television has traditionally been really great at delivering upper funnel results like brand awareness and recall, but now we can use the data to show that there are indeed lower funnel impacts as well. Data-driven linear we have seen to be incredibly effective, and we're seeing roughly double their ROAS when we look at data-driven versus traditional linear. And then lastly, if you're doing an attribution study as a report card, that is a massive waste of everybody's time and money, and attribution should be done in a way that allows you to optimize campaigns moving forward. Thank you.
Alice?